For this lesson, we're going to be solving two-step equations. The order of operations to remember for solving two-step equations is the first thing you always do is you add or subtract. And then for your step 2, you do multiply or divide. So let's look at our problems. For problem number 1, we have 3y plus 5 equals 9. So if you watch my other videos, I like to draw a little line here to remind me that whatever I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. So I am always going to add or subtract first. Well, since this is a plus 5, I am going to subtract 5 from both sides. And notice I draw my nice little line there. It's kind of like my operation line. I'm bringing down my 3y. And here, 5 and a negative 5, that's a pair of opposites. That was our goal. That is a 0, and we don't have to write our 0, equals 9 minus 5 is 4. So our last step is going to be, we have multiplication, so we will divide each side by whatever is near the variable. And this means that we are dividing. So 3 divided by 3, we know is a 1. And then we're going to do 4 divided by 3. So we are not going to write a 1y. We will just write that y is equal to 4/3 or 1 1/3. Either of those are an okay answer, unless you really need to follow the directions to see what they want. For number 2, it's 5x minus 5 equals a negative 10. Well, that is a minus 5, so I know the opposite, the inverse operation is I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And here's my little squiggle line again. And now, remember, whatever I do to one side of the equation, I must do to the other. So I'm bringing my 5x down. Here's my equal sign. And notice, a negative 10 plus 5, you need to know your integers. That's like a little subtraction problem, and we do get a negative 5 for our answer. So when we're looking at this is a 5x means multiplication. Again, we are dividing by 5 on both sides. So x is going to be equal to, and a negative and a positive is equal to a negative 1. And there we go for our answer for that one. All right, for number 3, we have 19 equals negative 2x plus 9. I'm going to add or subtract first. So remember, our goal is to get the variable by itself. So we're going to subtract 9 from both sides of both sides of the equation. And now I'm going to do 19 minus 9 is 10 is equal to a negative 2x. 9 minus 9 is 0. That was our goal, so we don't bother writing that. Whatever's beside the variable, this is multiplication, so we're dividing both sides by a negative 2. So when we do that, we end up with x is equal to a negative 5. 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. All right, so the next one has a fraction in it, and that's no worries. We're just going to follow our rules for solving equations. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I get this variable as much alone as I can, so I have got to bring this 16 to the other side of the equation. And since that is a positive 16, I'm going to write a negative 16, and so I am going to have on both sides of my equation again my negative 16. Well, 16 minus 16 is 0, so we don't write that. We will just bring down our c over 2 is equal to, and now this is a negative 11 minus 16 or negative 11 plus a negative 16. Either way is correct. And if you know how to work your integers, it is a negative 27. When we're looking at this problem now, we see that this is division, and I need to get c by itself. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply, the opposite of division is multiplication, both sides by the reciprocal of what is there. Notice I put a 1 there, so it is a 2 over 1 and a 2 over 1. Doing it to both sides of the equation. 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 2 is 2. Well, we know that's the same as just 1c, so I'm just going to write a c down. And a negative 27 times 2 is a negative 54. And we don't really need to worry about it being over 1. And so there we have it. All right, so for our last one, it's a little bit different than our first one because for number 4, this was a 1/2. Notice we have 3/4 y plus 2 equals 12. Again, we add or subtract first, so I'm subtracting my 2, since that's an addition, positive 2, or addition. So I'm going to bring my 3/4 y down. This becomes again, here's my wall, doing it on both sides of the equation. That becomes a 0 is equal to 12 minus 2 is 10. So now I am going to go ahead. This is a fraction, and fractions represent division. So I am going to multiply actually by the reciprocal of, oops, and that was not a 5, sorry, by the reciprocal of 3/4. So it is 4/3. And I'm multiplying this side by 4/3. So when I multiply straight across, I do get 12 over 12, and that's the same as 1. And so I'm just going to write my y equals, and I like to put that over 1 because 10 times 4 is 40, and then 1 times 3 is 3. So when I'm looking at that, I could leave it in that form depending on what the directions say, or I could write it as 13 1/3. What you do not want to do is when you're dealing with fractions, you don't want to write them as decimals because this decimal doesn't end, it goes on, and you want your answer to be written in a more exact form. You do not want a rounded decimal. If this video was helpful to you today, please add a like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more Math with Marcia. See you again soon.